last year we came here. I don't think a lot of people knew who Metallicus was. We had the acquisition of CU Ledger, Bonafide, and we were just kind of getting into the credit union space. We were in the credit union space, but really just getting welcomed into it. Whereas like a lot of people weren't ready for the stablecoins, digital assets. Transform to this year.
Oh, now you better be ready.
I'll just say I go from like this year, after this, I go to like 5 straight through meetings with credit unions. And then tomorrow, the same thing. So it is.
All right, rolling over to the Metallicus ecosystem. Metallicus was super active towards the end of February and so far in the beginning of March. They just recently posted this where they said here, stablecoins are moving from the crypto fringe to the center of payments conversations. At GAC, which is a credit union event that just recently took place with over 6,000 attendees, credit unions discussed how these rails could enable faster, lower-cost programmable money movement while protecting member trust in local financial ecosystems. And they posted this link down here. And I gave some highlights on this link here in a post, but the number one highlight that I had mentioned in reposting this, and we'll read thoroughly through some of it. And then I want to also play, shout out to XRPOG for posting this GAC 26 event, Metallicus Frank Mazda, having this interview with the gentleman from the CU broadcast. We'll play that as well. But the one key highlight from this little tiny report here that Metallicus posted is this quote, and it says, there is a call for credit unions to move from research to action. So I firmly believe that over the next consecutive couple of months, and then as we head closer and closer towards that 2030 agenda, that we're truly going to start to see projects in this space utilized for their actual utility and adopted by these large traditional financial institutions, whether it's large banks or whether it's credit unions. And they're really going to start to incorporate these layer ones and layer zeros into their architecture and into their infrastructure and actually utilize them for what their intended purpose is for. And so this article here just has so much juice. I'll read some of the highlights, but you can see this is from March 3rd, 2026. And it says GAC 2026, stablecoins move from crypto fringe to payments infrastructure. And on stage, we obviously, of course, had some representatives from Metallicus. This gentleman here. Who is this gentleman's name right here, sitting here? Let me zoom in for you, Aqua. Who's this guy?
That looks like John Ainsworth.
John Ainsworth, that's his name. Sorry. His name, I get confused with John Ungerlin. I always call him John Ungerlin, but I forget that he's the land credit union.
He's to the right of him right there. He's right there in the middle.
Right here. I always get their names mixed up. All right, so let's just read some of the highlights. It says here, panelists consistently position stablecoins not as a niche crypto product, but as a new payment infrastructure, faster, cheaper programmable rails that can be deployed in ways that align with credit union trust, safety, and community impact. And then down here, it says, this gentleman, Deland Cuso CIO, John Ungerlin, stressed the strategic risk of ignoring the broader digital asset wealth shift. That I feel like is a huge statement right there. Like, if you ignore this shift and this massive wealth transformation, then you risk being left behind. You risk your credit union falling behind in terms of adoption and new technological innovations. That is a massive comment. Then it says, Metallicus John Ainsworth noted that the underlying capability, near instant low-cost global value transfer, has existed for years, and the U.S. is now catching up to adoption already underway elsewhere. Then down here it says, a major theme was the education gap. Internally, boards, executives, staff, and externally, members. Panelists caution that the conversation is often dominated by noise and hype, while real implementation challenges include operational readiness, implementation, communications, compliance, adaptation, and governance. Pierce underscored that the tech is easy, operationalizing is hard, citing the need to rethink how risk concepts like BSA and AML compliance, which we know, Metallicus, XPR network, Metal blockchain, BSA compliant, translate in a new rail environment, and how to clearly communicate benefits in member-friendly language, faster, cheaper, smoother experiences. And then down here, this is where the panelists mentioned that they should act now, but cooperatively. The panel closed with the call for credit unions to move from research to action, starting with education, measurement, outflows, interchange, and strategy that preserves the member relationship and avoids recreating a vendor sprawl problem. Several panelists encouraged a cooperative network approach, a network effect, so credit unions can participate at scale, maintain interoperability, and keep the economics inside the movements.
It's that transition time. It sounds like it's that time to jump on board. The train has been moving, and and we're seeing it too. Like the St. Cloud Credit Union stablecoin announcement, and everything else that St. Cloud has been announcing as well. We're seeing it.
It 100% is, bro. And I mean, lack of price action, obviously, of course, has people's minds in a little bit of a downturn right now. But at the end of the day, right? We should all be here for the technology innovation that's taking shape. And Metallicus, for a fact, is at the forefront of helping these credit unions migrate and transition smoothly into this new digital era. That's undeniable. So don't take that from me and Aqua. Shout out to XPROG for sharing this over on X. That's who I got this post from. But this is the CU broadcast, and here we have Frank Mazda, Director of Blockchain for Institutions at Metallicus, and let's just listen to some of the things that he says. Aqua, if you have anything to say in between what he comments on, then we'll pause it and we'll chit-chat, but everybody just take a listen to Frank Mazda from Metallicus as to what he said at this recent event, the GAC.
Welcome back to our continued coverage of the 2026 GAC here in beautiful Washington, D.C., where the entire conference is going to the general session. They're marching by just outside the camera's frame here. But we have Metallicus' very own Frank Mazda. Did I get the last name right, Frank?
You got it.
Right? I love your last name. It's so cool.
Thank you.
So cool. So anyway, Frank is here from Metallicus. Going to talk about Stablecoin, going to talk about all cool things digital. Yep. But initially, how's it going so far?
It's good. So we're kicking off today. It's going to be a much different year than last year. That's
why is that?
So last year we came here. I don't think a lot of people knew who Metallicus was. Mm-hmm. We had the acquisition of CU Ledger, Bonafide, and we were just kind of getting into the credit union space. We were in the credit union space, but really just getting welcomed into it. Whereas like a lot of people weren't ready for the stable coins, digital assets. Right. Transform to this year.
Oh, now you better be ready.
I'll just say I go from like this year. After this, I go to like 5 straight through meetings with credit unions. Right. And then tomorrow, the same thing. So it is, we sent out like one notice and it's like, all want to talk.
Everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to
know. And it's just the industry, right? So that's not like a...
I like that, bro. That was a huge statement right there.
5 appointments with 5 different credit unions that day. And then the
tomorrow,
next day, the same thing.
He said they all want to talk. And that reminds me of that one post that Marshall Hayner put out that you shared the other day, where he said that all credit unions will utilize Metallicus technology. I don't know word for word what he said specifically, but it was something along those lines that all credit unions will integrate Metal Layer 0 into their infrastructure. And that's just crazy hearing that, a year ago, it's like nobody was paying attention, but now all of a sudden these credit unions, they want to talk, they want to have meetings with Metallicus. And like I continue to say, we're going to start to really see projects utilized at scale. And we're going to really see in the coming years ahead, what blockchains are going to be used by these financial institutions and which ones aren't. It's not an era of speculation anymore where we can just assume because a document says something, we're like, oh, this blockchain is going to be used. Now we're really going to enter into an era where over the coming years and months, we're really going to start to see which blockchains are going to be winners and which ones are going to be losers. Is this the post from Marshall?
All right. So it says every bank will have its own blockchain, its own stablecoin in XMD basket, and will run on Metal Layer 0, allowing communication without the need for bridges or costly, slow settlement. They interact on XPR, the A chain, to handle cross-chain trading and lending. Goodbye, ACH. And he said that in 2022, and it's coming to fruition now.
Yeah, huge confirmation there. Let's continue to listen to the rest of this Frank Mazda interview here. See if he has any other juice to say.
Personal Flex and Metallicus, just the way that we've evolved as an industry, credit unions evolved, it's crazy. It really is. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, every time you see a headline with stablecoin in it, it just blows up. So because people are that curious about it and how it's going to affect not only the credit union's way of life, but their members' way of life.
Exactly. Right? Yes.
So okay, well, having said that, so let's talk about the stablecoin pilot program. What's it all about, sir?
So last year, so there's a big, obviously, one of the big issues with credit unions today is the outflow of deposits. And another issue when you think about stablecoins is going to be the interoperability. So what Metallicus has done last year, we've had this innovation program for about 3 years. And last year we surveyed, end of 2024, we surveyed our participants to see what were they going to be most interested in going into 2025. And stablecoins, surprisingly, with a few of those credit unions, was a hot topic. So Metallicus, prior to the Genius Act passing, we launched a stablecoin pilot program where you can kind of touch it, feel it, see it, be able to have this hands-on, sandbox environment. And what we've seen actually going into this year is that now we've had a lot of success. We have about 30 credit unions participating that have these sandbox. Now we're in 2026 looking at production. Right. So we're in a production environment mode of being able to, how do we transition from the pilot to getting people to ready into production.
Right on.
And that's
did he say we have 26 credit unions that are ready to go from pilot to production?
Production, keyword, production.
Wow.
And man, I low key want to show that though.
The trust lines, I know. We got to keep it on the hush stuff. Because it would solidify so much, it would solidify so much that the internet has not yet discovered, but all in due time, bro.
Yeah.
That was huge. Yeah, that was crazy. 26 credit unions ready to shift from the sandbox phase to a live production environment. Man, the next couple of years is going to be such an interesting time to be alive.
And that means too, those trust lines that we know in our community, were the ones that we're aware of. That means there's 3 more guaranteed trust lines that are going to be popping up, because there's 22 or 23 right now that we discussed as a community yesterday.
Yeah, that was huge verbal confirmation. Let's see what else he has to say.
It's obviously following all the guidance and things that are coming with it, and whatnot.
So, I don't mean to have a Kevin Martin right there. Schools first, yeah. Anyway, but where was my train of thought? No, but I don't know if I want to have a sense of urgency here.
Sure.
But you don't want to be blockbustered. I keep saying that with this type of stuff. You don't want to let this train leave the station too far down the line. Well, up and on, right?
Right. So what we're seeing right now is that where the interest is, we understand that there's new issuance guidance coming from the NCUA, hopefully as early as this summer, maybe June, July. What we're seeing from credit unions right now is they don't want to be left behind. So what they're looking at is saying, how do I get involved today? And that's what Metallicus do. How do we ensure that we're prepared for tomorrow? So that starts with digital wallets, making sure that you have the infrastructure, making sure that you have the foundation, making sure that you've done all your homework internally, not just for your members' perspective, but also the back office. How do you ensure that you are fully equipped and ready to go? And that's what Metallicus do, and that's why we're here today. To talk about.
And this is why you guys are in such high demand right now.
Bro, notice how he said summertime, right?
And he said that's why you guys are in such high demand right now. And bro, like we've been saying this, Metallicus has the most complete ecosystem in crypto, period, when it comes to doing what they're able to do for these credit unions, and then having a whole DeFi ecosystem that these credit unions can eventually adopt as well.
I think the biggest confirmation for me was when this same gentleman from CU Broadcast, and it's actually interesting because right in the background, you see the partner Investify right above the Metallicus logo. When this gentleman had that other dude from Investify sitting on his podcast, and the guy from Investify said, once regulations are in place and the infrastructure and the foundation is all built out, we are ready and willing to offer Metallicus's coins to all of our partners, all of our financial institution partners, all of our credit union partners.
We're the first ones to do that. We've been live with that now for over 2 years. We've been battle tested with NCUA audits, various state audits, et cetera, et cetera. We have thousands of members using the product. We have real data to show on the adoption and volume that's flowing through our platform, which is material. We have real ROI that we can show with that real data. And so, that's really what we're so excited about now, is the Genius Act and that enabling this new dynamic of stablecoins, while it still is likely early in the United States for anyone to be using stablecoins for a mass retail product. We see the world going in that direction, and it is being used more outside of the United States for just for retail. I think a lot of people agree that there's value in cross-border payments for stablecoins, but eventually in the United States, there's going to be more of a push to using stablecoin for retail payments. When that's going to be is likely a function of when rewards mechanisms kicks in, and companies that will actually pay members or users for using stablecoins, just like we see cash back on cards today, right? But when that happens, we're already going to be there to support it. With our partnerships that we have in place, we're multi-custodial now too as well. We have our primary custodian is BitGo, the second largest crypto custodian in the world, only behind Coinbase. And the big difference between BitGo and Coinbase is BitGo does not compete direct to consumer. So BitGo is only B2B, right? Coinbase is eating credit unions' deposits for lunch. And so, we want to work with partners that can enable credit unions and not compete with credit unions. And the great thing about BitGo and their scale is they're able to turn on new coins as they come into the ecosystem. And so we just announced yesterday a partnership with METALLICUS. And so, we're not out there pushing METALLICUS's coin for them, but if credit unions want to use it, we're happy to support it, because we can do so turnkey, very seamlessly, where credit unions during implementation with us can just tell us what coins they want to turn on. So they can turn on USDC, USDT, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then if they want to turn on METALLICUS's coin, they can. And so we're just here to prepare credit unions for the shifting in economy. When it does get there, we think it's early, and what's going to drive more of that stablecoin adoption, just like Robinhood's taking the strategy of having all the asset classes.
That was like massive confirmation of where Metallicus is headed in the future. Because if a financial institution with all of their credentials on the line is willing to come out and openly say that.
Now, let me ask you, is because the connections of Investify and BitGo, is BitGo a client to Investify or vice versa?
I know that Investify partnered with BitGo, but I couldn't talk on the partnership itself in detail. I'd have to go and look at the announcement.
Yeah.
But I do know that because of the partnership, BitGo is allowing or something like that. Matter of fact, we might as well just pull it up, bro. Let's just go over to BitGo's freaking Twitter profile. Let me see if I have it saved.
Here, I'll send it to you, because I reposted it and put both the links that we're going to want to see anyways right now. Here, so.
Yeah, so this is from the beginning of February, and it says BitGo Bank and Trust and Investify partner to support nationwide digital asset investing for banks and credit unions. Okay. So this infrastructure is being put in place for these financial institutions, particularly these credit unions, to start to invest in digital assets, which is why this statement from Investify about them being comfortable enough to offer Metallicus's coins to their clients is just so much more powerful. It says Investify's integration with its network of banks and credit unions now enables account holders to trade digital assets from their existing Investify accounts. Investify will also leverage BitGo's institutional-grade digital asset infrastructure to support consistent availability across all 50 U.S. states, including complex jurisdictions such as New York, Texas, and Idaho. So the foundation is being laid out, bro. It's proof in the pudding that something is cooking, and that the lack of price action, in my personal opinion, should be seen as an opportunity before all this stuff really truly unfolds and kicks into, like Frank Mazda said, going from the sandbox to the production environment.
Literally. And
is imagine getting in after the production environment goes full-fledged, full force. I wouldn't want to be involved in the coin after that happens. The risk of reward would be a little thrown off there.
Talk about being priced out for sure. I mean, because this is now, that would be really institutional money. It's not retail money,
It's definitely not. And I think that that's another thing that a lot of people, we got to wake up to as retail investors, is that over the last 17 years in crypto, we've been the ones driving the market. You know, that's all about the change over the next 5 years. I've heard so many people say that over the next 5 years, we're going to see more innovation and adoption of digital assets than we've seen over the last 20, you know?
And from the sounds of it, like it sounds like Metallicus is already making that happen right now with 26 already in production. I would imagine they're gonna, really turn the machine on so that these credit unions can start utilizing the chain and moving stablecoins around. However, their plan is exactly, I guess, more to come on that. But yeah, it's exciting times.